Trey and I look like the perfect couple from the outside, but on the inside, it's all fake. It's not special.
Let me let y'all know right out the gate. I love Charlotte York. She's probably my favorite of all the girls because she's the most honest about what she is, what she wants, and the kind of world she exists in. Charlotte is the one that forces them to see reality when they pretend to be oblivious that they're privileged white women who like being privileged white women, or that class, race, and money matter greatly in the world, especially in their world.
Ladies, I apologize for interrupting. Have a pleasant evening.
You too.
Bye.
Could he be any cuter?
You gotta love a fella who loves the jewelry.
Oh, that is one fine-looking man. I'd like to get me some of that.
Don't talk like that.
Like what?
You know.
Oh, relax with a knee-jerk liberal reaction. That wasn't black talk. That was sex talk.
Okay, first of all, it isn't black talk. It's African American talk.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be talking like that at all, Samantha. It's rude and politically incorrect.
Talk about politically incorrect. She can't diss me just because I'm white.
Please tell me you didn't say diss. Maybe you should stop saying him, Samantha. Race is a very big issue.
No, there is no reason to bring race into this.
But you're talking about more than a difference in income. You're talking about a difference in background and education. This guy is working class.
Working class?
Yeah.
It's the millennium, sweetie. We don't say things like working class anymore.
But you're trying to pretend that we live in a classless society, and we don't.
I like Charlotte because she sees them for what they are. And understand what I'm saying. I like Charlotte. Not that I relate to Charlotte, but I like Charlotte because I like that Charlotte knows who she is and exactly what she wants out of life, and she mostly makes no apologies for this. We could shame Charlotte for aspiring to nothing more than being a beloved, rich housewife and mother living a male-centered existence all we want. But Charlotte didn't and don't give a f***. And I like a bitch who is who she is, even in the face of judgment and opposition. Although, to be fair, Charlotte was usually the one standing in opposition and judgment of all of her friends. Charlotte didn't care how many lunches she needed to storm out to make Samantha where she didn't approve of her lifestyle, how many times she had to openly judge or check Carrie, or whether she ended up on the wrong side of history muscling Miranda into having a baby she didn't want. And it's worth mentioning that she did all of those things at different stages of her relationship with Trey when she was projecting however she was feeling onto them. When she was in love and idealistically planning a wedding, Carrie's affair with Big angered her because she identified with Natasha, so Carrie got checked. When she and Trey were struggling to have sex, Samantha's flipping casual sex talk infuriated her, so Samantha got checked. When she and Trey were struggling to have a baby, Miranda's accidental pregnancy and plan to have an abortion sent Charlotte ass over the moon, so she unreasonably got checked. My point is, for good or for bad, Charlotte was honest and she was direct. And I say all that just to prepare you for the amount of lashings I'm about to give Charlotte. And so you understand that she's not getting these lashings because I don't f with her. In fact, with Charlotte the long way is precisely why it took me so long to realize how dead wrong she was in her marriage to Trey. Oh my God, Trey McDougal was a victim.
You're a victim.
Trey was a victim, and we did not notice because the show makes it seem like Charlotte didn't wrong him. In fact, the way their marriage ends is with Trey asserting that she was a good wife and thus that she should get whatever she wants in the divorce in spite of the prenup.
Charlotte York was a wonderful wife. Stop. She did nothing wrong. Stop. Give her everything she wants. Stop. Seriously, Mother. Stop.
So that's what makes us feel like Charlotte was good to Trey. But no, baby. Charlotte was awful to that man, and Trey deserved better. So today's the day we finally get justice for Trey McDougal. Run the theme song, Erin.
Black independent, strongest in women. It's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay now. I know that I'm worth it, so make sure to listen. It's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay.
Trey and Charlotte met when Charlotte was running out of a restaurant trying to get away from her friend's husband who just tried to profess his love to her. And as she was running across the street, she fell in front of Trey's cab. Luckily for Charlotte, instead of being mollywopped by that car and sent home to glory, the car stopped and Trey ran out to help her. And when their eyes met, it was love at first sight. Or at least that's what Charlotte planned to tell their future children in her mind, because she immediately romanticized the future with this man who had just rescued her. So they begin dating. Things are going well, and we learn that in addition to being handsome, Trey was a wealthy doctor who came from old, long money. Now let's go through the facts. Less than a month into dating, Charlotte meets Trey's mom, Bunny. And in meeting her, she noticed that his mother had at the least considerable influence, if not outright control over Trey. And that the way his mother exercised that control was through a kind of psychological dog training where she suggests to him that he'd like her ideas better and touch his arm, which would kind of trigger an automatic yes or acquiescence to whatever she was saying. So what does Charlotte do? Charlotte says to herself, I'm gonna control his mama's boy the same way his mama do.
Run, bitch! Run!
So she uses his mother's tactics in order to suggest that they should get married. And just like it had worked when his mama did it, it works this time. And Trey agrees to marry her. Now, despite manipulating Trey into doing exactly what she wanted, this gal still wasn't happy because Charlotte is always worried about the wrong things. Charlotte starts running around and complaining to Carrie and company that it's all wrong because she basically proposed to herself. Now she doesn't have something romantic to tell people.
Hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
There was no kneeling. There was no ring, no nothing. This is an awful engagement story. What am I supposed to tell my kids? Well, Mommy really wanted to get married, so Daddy said, alrighty.
When I tell y'all, Trey is a who couldn't win for losing, but y'all can see, because Charlotte was never focused on Trey as a person or their actual relationship or life together. She was always focused on perception and simply checking things off the mental checklist she made for her life long before she met him. But anyway, Trey does end up alleviating this particular worry of Charlotte's when they walk by at Tiffany's and he proposed that they go inside and get her the ring of her dreams, which was enough of a story for Charlotte to spin to her liking. So the engagement commences with only a couple of hiccups. One being that Charlotte, the woman who manipulated the wealthy man she barely knew to marry her after less than a month of dating by using his mother's manipulation tactics, was both upset and surprised when that wealthy man's wealthy manipulative mother had the good sense to try to protect their family's wealth. Nevertheless, Charlotte eventually gets her way with the prenup as well, ensuring she'd see $1 million even if she left Trey. So they get married. And here's the serious discussion we need to have. Because if you let Charlotte, her friends, the show, or the fandom tell it, the first big problem in Charlotte and Trey's marriage was sex, or that they weren't having sex rather, because Trey couldn't get it up more specifically. But no, baby. This situation was just the first of several major ways Charlotte demonstrated that she didn't give a about Trey as a person. She just wanted to be a wife and a mother, and Trey was just the easiest vehicle to get her there. But speaking of easy, my sponsor for today's video is ZocDoc. Y'all see what I did there? ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. And ZocDoc isn't just for one type of care. They have more than 100,000 providers across nearly every specialty, from primary care to dental health to eye care to urgent care to mental health and more. It's the one-stop shop for all your healthcare needs. No one needs to call doctor's offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. I have been using ZocDoc since I was in college, long before I ever had a platform. So I'm always very excited to get the opportunity to partner with them because ZocDoc is the only reason I have been able to have a team of doctors to deal with my many ailments. When you found the doctor you need, you can see their actual appointment openings. Plus, ZocDoc helps you get appointments fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. And you can even score same-day appointments, which I have. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/IlluminatiPop. Also linked in the description to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. Charlotte and Trey never had sex during the very short time they dated prior to getting married because Charlotte wanted them to wait until they got married. Not because these grown people were virgins, they weren't. This was something Charlotte wanted to do for no other reason than she liked the idea of being able to say she and her husband waited until they got married. Charlotte is a gal who covets tradition and perception, and she is not above manufacturing ways to appear in keeping with these things. That's why she needed the phony Tiffany story for the engagement. That's why she needed this. The point is, they hadn't had sex. But on the night before the wedding, when Charlotte reveals to her girls that she and Trey hadn't had sex, they put so much shit in their head about how she couldn't marry a man she hadn't had sex with that after she gets drunk, she goes to Trey's house to finally have sex with him. But the mission fails when Trey couldn't get it up. Trey then informed Charlotte that it was a problem he'd had before, although he'd hoped it wouldn't happen with her, which are all things Charlotte would have known or realized had she thought about or inquired about this man or his desires, instead of being singularly focused on placing him into the pre-written story of her life that she wanted to tell, which was that a handsome, wealthy man rescued her, that they'd fallen in love at first sight, hadn't had sex until they got married, then married, had children, and lived happily ever after. Charlotte was not concerned with knowing Trey as a person or with what he wanted, desired, or struggled with. She wanted him to play a role and to complete a picture, so she had not even wondered how he might not complete that picture. So moments before the wedding, Charlotte panics, tells Carrie that Trey can't get it up, and questions whether she should still marry him. This was yet another red flag and indication of how little Charlotte was actually invested in Trey the person. The minute he showed one sign of imperfection or a problem they might have to work through as a couple, Charlotte was half ready to jump ship. That don't sound like through sickness and health till death do us part to me. But Carrie reassured her and they got married. Now listen to me and listen to me good. The issue was not and is not whether sex is important in a relationship. It is, and nobody is or has ever disputed whether it is. I have to make sure y'all listening to me good because I know some of y'all hard of hearing as is, and the show already worked overtime to place a veil over our eyes when it comes to Charlotte and Trey's problems. The show tries to treat Charlotte's misery and total obsession with the fact that she and Trey weren't having sex as some kind of progressive feminist illustration of the fact that sex is important to women too, that we too can't be happy in sexless relationships even if all our other needs are met, and that Samantha was right to critique marrying a man she hadn't had sex with. But no, baby, the issue was not and is not whether sex is important in a relationship or whether Charlotte had valid sexual needs. None of that has anything to do with the price of tea in China or how Charlotte was carrying on, or the larger problem, which was that Charlotte rushed everything, and her policy on handling anything she wanted in her relationship with Trey was this.
But I want it now!
Sex can be important, but sex isn't and cannot be the most important thing in your marriage or your relationship, or the only important thing in your marriage or relationship. If you claim to love someone and vow to spend the rest of your life with them, it does not make sense that you cannot find any joy in the company of your spouse while taking trips, doing shit, and having your every other need met just because y'all aren't having sex. That should not make you miserable or enter crisis mode or wallow around them. But even if it did, your feelings or desire to have sex, whether valid or not, would not justify you slandering your partner and your marriage all over Manhattan, telling anybody who will listen how your husband, who's so ashamed he can barely talk to you about it, is struggling in the sexual department and not meeting your needs and making you question your marriage.
He couldn't get it up. We have a problem.
Hello?
It's me. It's been days and still nothing.
There it was, in both the on and off positions. $8,000 worth of hydraulics that could turn Trey into the bionic man.
My husband can't get it up.
I mean, don't you ever just want to be really pounded hard, you know? Damn it, I just really want to be fucked, you know? Just really fucked.
My marriage is a fake Fendi. Excuse me? Trey and I look like the perfect couple from the outside, but on the inside, it's all fake. It's not special. You can't even get it up.
It's one thing to tell your close friends, but Charlotte was doing way more than that, baby. Charlotte was running around the place telling people her marriage is a fake Fendi. Like she's not the one who crafted the fake image of perfection in their marriage to the world. Like she's not the one demanding Trey fit himself into it. Look how his wife out talking about her incredibly private husband who cares about his image just as much as she does. Can we please take a second to think about how egregious how Charlotte was treating Trey and publicly talking about Trey would be if Charlotte and Trey swap places? Please imagine a husband doing his wife the way Charlotte was doing Trey.
Nah, it ain't gonna work.
I know it's a laughing matter to everybody when men can't get it up, ha ha ha, but there are 1,000,001 reasons why people, both men and women, may struggle with sex and intimacy at one point or another in their lives. Those moments and struggles should not be met by their partners with pressure, shame, anger, or hostility, or making it about them. Charlotte went out of her way to make Trey feel that his sexual dysfunction was the greatest problem in their lives and an active impediment to any shred of happiness for her. She treated it as him not trying, him doing something to harm her or their relationship. Again, I ask y'all to please picture the things Charlotte was saying and doing if the roles were reversed. Imagine a man's wife struggling to be intimate for whatever reason, and that man responding by pressuring her every day, giving speeches about his need, crying and casually complaining to anybody who would listen about how he might leave her and how unhappy he is. Trey ceased to have value to Charlotte the moment he could meet one of her needs. And she really didn't give a about his problem outside of how it affected her, which is why she made it about her. We eventually learned that Trey isn't actually impotent in the traditional sense. When Charlotte catches him masturbating, which she saw as an act of betrayal in some sense. Like, oh, you can't get it up to satisfy my needs, but you could get it up to jack off and satisfy yours. But after they begin couples counseling, we discover that Trey's issue is more psychological, where in his mind, dirty sexual things aren't meant for one's pure wife that they love and respect. So he can't get it up or keep it up due to the psychological hurdle at the back of his mind. But he does try. Trey went to counseling without a fight. He engaged all Charlotte's attempts and every way she pressed the issue of sex, in spite of the fact that it was clear she had no interest in him working through this issue or being patient with him about it. She received it as a burden placed on her because she thought he could just will himself into her. And I don't even think Charlotte was so hell-bent on them because she was so particularly hot up for him. I think it was more about the idea of perfection in her head and how the idea of a sexless marriage for any amount of time placed an asterisk on the perfect man and perfect marriage she had signed up for, and that sex is a prerequisite for having babies. But the point is, it was never really about her or his sexual desires or intimacy. But anyhow, like I said, Trey was trying and counseling was going well enough. But when Trey doesn't initiate sex after a couple of failed attempts at him keeping it up, Charlotte motherfucking York then cheats on this man with the gardener at his mother's house. And Trey's sister-in-law is who tells everybody over dinner. Dog, this shit is so egregious, and the way the show glosses over it makes the audience gloss over it too, myself included for a long time. It wasn't until I got older and really thought about how you're supposed to treat a spouse and how you should operate in a marriage. And now that I can see clearly, there is so much to discuss. First of all, let's make sure we call this what it was, because I don't think anyone ever has. And for as much shit as Charlotte talked and Carrie and Big having an affair, I cannot believe Carrie missed the opportunity to tell Charlotte about her cheating, hypocritical ass. Charlotte cheated on Trey. She cheated at the man family function at his mother house in the yard with the gardener for his in-laws to be able to catch her and shame him at the dinner table. Please, close your eyes and imagine. No, really, close your eyes. Do it. Please imagine a world where you take your significant other to your parents' house. And as you were sitting there with your family, your sibling's wife announces that she saw your significant other in the backyard cheating with the who cut the grass earlier that day. Because Trey was having sexual issues for a month into their marriage. 3 months maximum, but I'm pretty confident it was a month. Because they was having problems and not having sex for a month, he isn't entitled to love, respect, commitment, and did I mention basic respect? Dog, I am so sick of how Charlotte was walking around acting like Trey had her living a life of misery because they wasn't my God, the height of ungratefulness. Shame. Ain't shit else you love about that man or enjoy about his company and doing life with him? Shame. You so miserable y'all ain't that you gotta kiss the gardener? Shame. Cause what else is there for you, his wealthy housewife he asks nothing of to do but make a fool of him at his mama's house? I need us to appreciate the facts, which is that Charlotte was degrading this man and breaking down his sense of worth. Charlotte was working overtime to make sure he knew that he wasn't enough, that she wasn't happy and couldn't allow a moment of happiness between them until he fixed his problem, that she could not so much as be faithful if this issue weren't rectified immediately. Charlotte was upping the pressure all the time. Imagine already having a psychological hang-up about sex as it is, then having a partner doing shit like this to you. My God. Imagine the shame he was already feeling, having his wife announced to him every day that he wasn't doing what he needed to do as a man and that she wasn't happy. Then coming to find out in front of his family that she cheating and his ma just laughing it off. Charlotte, you're a McDougal now. Remember I said Charlotte was always upping the pressure on Trey? I think kissing the gardener in the open for anyone to see was another way for her to up the ante and express her dissatisfaction in hopes that it would compel him to give her what she wants. Mind you, at this point, she done know the man of a psychological hang-up. Even Carrie kept repeatedly trying to make her acknowledge that.
But you've been married for over a month. You've never had sex?
It's not a physical thing, it's emotional.
But she insists on treating it as a physical thing he could just do if he loved her enough or cared about her more as his wife. And I think that's evident in how she approaches Trey later that night and how she responds to what he has to say. Charlotte finds Trey alone, taking his frustrations out on a solo game of tennis in the middle of the night. She then throws out some half-ass apology in no way worthy of the gravity of the offense. And Trey basically tells her that it's okay, he knows she has needs, and despite how much it bothers him, she can do what she wants sexually with whom she wants, and he guesses he'll just have to look the other way since he's not meeting her needs.
So what can I say? I'm apparently unable to meet your needs, so from time to time, as much as I detest it, I'm just gonna have to look the other way.
And Charlotte responds by basically telling him she doesn't want him to let her f other men, she wants him to f her.
I don't want a husband who looks the other way. I want a husband who takes me in his arms and makes me not want to kiss the gardener.
And I believe Charlotte when she said that. I don't think she wanted the gardener. I don't think she's like devastatingly horny the way she's making it seem. I think she kissed the gardener for the same reason she insisted on acting miserable in Trey's company without sex, as a means of pressuring him to do what she wants, which I think is worse. But it's consistent with how Charlotte has approached her relationship with Trey since day one. Manipulation. She manipulated her way into the marriage, and she manipulated him during the marriage. And I think kissing the gardener at his family's home was another instance of that. And I think it's clear with how she responded to Trey.
I don't want a husband who looks the other way. I want a husband who takes me in his arms and makes me not want to kiss the gardener.
What she's saying to him is, I kissed the gardener because you won't f me. She's saying, I have a husband who makes me want to kiss the gardener because he won't f me. What you need to do is f me. It's yet another instance of her vocalizing what her actions have been demonstrating. That she thinks the problem is just that Trey just won't do something he could do if he wants to. I want a husband who takes me in his arms. Minimizes the reality of this situation, which is that Trey is not having sex with her because he doesn't want to. It's because he can't. Not until he works some psychological shit out. But Charlotte don't give a f about none of that, because in her mind, she's on a race to the finish line, and Trey's issues are slowing her down from getting to the next thing she plans to demand to bring the fairy tale image of her life completely into focus. Which is why, when Trey doesn't immediately bend to her will and proclaim to be over his issues and ready to dick her down and take her into his arms, Charlotte immediately tells him she thinks they should separate. Because like I said, this stunt with the gardener was a means to provide him with an ultimatum. But here's the thing that pisses me off. The way the scene plays out and how Carrie narrates it, you can tell they want us as the audience to believe that Charlotte is right, and the problem is that Trey's just giving up or not committed to their connection because he rather suggests an open marriage on her end instead of just his wife, leaving her no choice but to throw in the towel.
Charlotte, no marriage is perfect, and so much of what we have is wonderful.
We can have separate lives, still be together. Totally acceptable.
As Charlotte looked at her perfect husband on his perfect tennis court, at their family's perfect country house, she realized the one thing that was missing was that perfect connection with an imperfect person.
Trey, when we get back to the city, I think that we should separate for a while.
Sex in the City had us so f***ed up for trying to spin Trey into the problem here. Trey was doing everything he could to please Charlotte. It was Charlotte demonstrating to him that she was unwilling to give him time, space, or grace to work through his sexual intimacy issues so that he could get to a place where he could meet her needs. And she demonstrated that by her relentless complaints and now cheating on him with the garden at his mouth.
Shame.
Charlotte lucky that man didn't crash the out or leave her ass right then. Instead, because he obviously loved her and wanted to be with her so bad, he swallowed the embarrassment, unfortunately internalized the idea that it was his fault she cheated on him, and came to the conclusion that if this is the single most important need of hers and he can't satisfy it, he should allow her to satisfy the need elsewhere. Is that a crazy conclusion for him to arrive at when he just caught the bitch satisfying the need elsewhere? I think not. That's what her actions tell him, and her response confirmed it. Because without the promise of meeting those needs, she opted to leave him. Because again, I say, Charlotte never loved Trey. She loved the idea of Trey. So they separated upon her request, and Charlotte was somehow still round the place, telling strangers his personal business.
We love each other so much, but that doesn't always mean a marriage is working, does it? No, it does not. We had some problems in the bedroom.
And then she somehow spun the narrative into he told her he didn't want to be married. But when that happened, when did he tell her that?
You said you didn't want to be married.
Well,
Now, I don't know if I want to be married.
She left him and spun it like he wasn't fighting for the relationship when that's not what happened. She initiated the separation and somehow claiming he did, and now she doesn't know whether she want to be together.
Huh?
She at his house, mad they're separated, talking about they need to talk. But once he miss and come early, all of a sudden she ain't got nothing to say. She wanna leave, and she don't want the husband she claim ain't fighting for the relationship to call her no more.
This isn't working. Whatever this is we're doing isn't working. Just please stop calling me. I'll call you when I've figured out what I want.
Charlotte, I love you.
And let me ask y'all another thing. Do y'all think it's a coincidence that Trey was able to work through his sexual hang-up once Charlotte moved out their house, was no longer in there acting like their lives wasn't worth living if his dick wasn't hard, and actually gave him space? Then, in true everything was about her fashion, once Trey does get over this hang-up and they do start having sex again, and Trey starts being super excited about his dick being hard and wanting to have sex all the time, she had the nerve to turn up on him.
Trey, I'm tired of being married to your penis. I'm a person, and this is supposed to be a relationship, and I'm done walking on eggshells. Oh, don't talk about moving in front of the penis. It might go soft, and the penis likes this, and the penis doesn't like that, and the penis wants to be measured.
It was just a thought.
Well, here's another thought. You can shove this marriage up your ass.
Well, excuse the fuck out of me.
Bitch, you the one who made y'all's life about the penis. You the one who made this man think he was inadequate because he couldn't dick you down. You had his ma laughing at him at the dinner table, then you left him. And the reason she was mad was because now that he's perfect again, now she hard up for him to ask her to move back into the home she voluntarily left. But as Trey always does, he did as Charlotte requested and he asked her to move back in. And when I tell y'all, the moment Charlotte moved back in, not even 2 seconds later, this gal decides they should have a baby. Hell. When I tell y'all Charlotte was speed running the out this relationship trying to get to the finish line, so they immediately start trying for a baby and Charlotte immediately starts making it the sole focus of their lives. Charlotte is a gal who could have a million reasons to be happy, but if she want one thing and it ain't happening how she want when she want, she ain't gonna let nobody be happy. Which is a fact that not only caused problems in her marriage with Trey and almost ended her relationship with Harry too. But we'll talk about Charlotte and Harry another time. So now it's gone from sex being a problem to having a baby being a problem. Soon as they start trying, Charlotte start ambushing the man with dinners with her friends with kids who was dead miserable. Fully decorating a nursery prematurely and putting them on a non-stop baby making schedule because like I say, Charlotte always in a rush to make things happen fast because she's just trying to complete a story in her head that predates Trey. And she's trying to compete with the women around her. So she's just dragging Trey along for the ride because he suits the plot. But when they don't immediately get pregnant after trying for just 3 months, just like she handled the issue of sex in their marriage, Charlotte quickly turns getting pregnant into her sole reason for living, without which she cannot be happy, to the point where she wasn't just going out of her way to make Trey and her miserable. She was making Miranda miserable too when Miranda dared to accidentally get pregnant when Charlotte couldn't.
He only has one ball. It isn't fair.
Honey, take a breath. Here, honey, have a sip of water.
How could you do this to me? To you? Okay, stop, please. You're not even going to consider having it?
This is not in my plans right now, and I really feel awful talking about this in front of you.
I'll leave.
No.
You can just sit here and have your abortion talk.
Come on, Charlotte, please sit down.
And normally, I would roll my eyes at men who interpret being asked by their partners to get their sperm tested because they're struggling to get pregnant as a couple as a shot at their masculinity or personhood. But in this instance, I understood Trey's sensitivity when Charlotte asked him to get his sperm tested.
Why are you getting so mad? We're just talking.
Hell's bells, it's only been 3 months. And why would you just leap to the conclusion that the problem is me?
Trey interpreting Charlotte's request as her thinking there was a problem with him was fair, because thus far, that's how she's handled their issues, by treating him as a problem they had to fix. But he still does as she asked, and he's in the clear, leading Charlotte to eventually get herself checked out, at which point she learned that she only had a 15% chance of getting pregnant, which was a gut punch. Charlotte's fertility struggles were actually some of the saddest moments in Sex and the City. Anytime I watch the episodes where Charlotte and Harry miscarried, I bawl. When Charlotte uses the True Hollywood story of Elizabeth Taylor's life to will herself out of bed afterwards, I cry tears of joy. When Charlotte finally gets pregnant in the movie and finally gets over her fear she'll lose the baby and goes jogging, bitch, a puddle of tears. So don't think I don't feel the weight of Charlotte's fertility struggles and how painful that 15% news was. But it still didn't justify her taking it upon herself to sign she and her husband up for a wait list to adopt a baby without discussing it with him and them coming to an understanding. Now, was Trey's mother Bunny still being racist as with why she opposed adopting the baby? Absolutely.
Now, I know some things can't be helped, but I must tell you right now, I don't enjoy Mandarin food, and I don't enjoy a Mandarin child.
I don't think that's any of your business.
Bunny did, in fact, need a ass beat for that. But I fully understand why Trey was exhausted and didn't think he even wanted kids anymore by the time Charlotte is talking about she learning Chinese in case they adopt a Chinese baby. Look how this woman was carrying on in front of everybody he knows, screaming about having to do all the things she's unilaterally decided she wanted to do.
We want to have a Manson baby. We can have a Manson baby, and nobody else needs to be involved.
Well, then let's not involve the entire Jewish population of New York City, shall we?
I'm serious. I'm doing all the work. I'm getting the hormone shots, and I'm taking the pills, and I'm doing the research, and I'm in the chat room with all of the other reproductively challenged women, and I'm learning Mandarin. All you have to do is jerk off into a plastic cup.
And Charlotte is rightfully pissed off because of what his mommy said. But she's still pulling big C in, and I think it's worth pointing out the hypocrisy of Charlotte telling everybody in Manhattan their business, regardless of how private, personal, and ashamed Trey was, but turning the f up on him because he told his mother about their fertility issues and a plan to adopt a baby. Charlotte was speed running their life, and she was barely checking in to tell him where they was headed. Everything was now or never from the moment they met. They start dating, she gotta get married now. They have a month of issues, separation now. They start having sex again, she gotta move in now, and they gotta try have a baby now. They don't get pregnant immediately, waitless. Everything was now or never, and she never gave him time to adjust, process shit, or to come to decisions on his own. And she never gave them a time to just be together, a time where they weren't tackling a problem of Charlotte's preconceived timelines own making. From Trey's perspective, he met Charlotte. She told him marry her. He did. They had issues in the bedroom, so she cheated on him and moved out. Then she moved back in, immediately quit her job, started trying to get pregnant. Then he blinked twice and she was adopting a baby from China. That man got tired of the whiplash, and even still, he didn't want to leave Charlotte. He just didn't think he wanted children anymore. So she divorced him. And somehow, we're meant to walk away thinking that it was a fair, deserved, and happy outcome for Trey to let her have his family's generational home that she moved her divorce lawyer she was into.
Apparently our office just received a telegram from Scotland from Dr. McDougall. Shall I read it?
By all means.
Charlotte York was a wonderful wife. Stop. She did nothing wrong. Stop. Give her everything she wants. Stop. Seriously, mother. Stop.
Ain't no way. Trey was a victim, dog. And it's crazy because gave Miranda a harder time over Steve cheating on her than they gave Charlotte for cheating on Trey. The only person who ever tried to hold Charlotte accountable for how she treated Trey was Bunny McDougall, which is why, racist, elitist, and without boundaries as she was, she was right to feel the way she did about Charlotte. She had Charlotte card. Y'all need to remember, Bunny did not start out the mother-in-law from hell. She actually really liked Charlotte. She didn't fight her on the prenup, and she even laughed and shrugged off Charlotte cheating on her son and embarrassing him. Bunny did not turn on Charlotte until she repaid Trey and his family, letting her cheating slide by immediately leaving him and moving out. That's when she stopped trusting Charlotte.
I've been in this house far longer than you, my dear. And unlike you, I never left.
As far as Bunny became concerned, Charlotte was a gal who ran her son, did whatever she wanted, left him, moved out. Then the second she moved in, she was commandeering her son into adopting a baby he had clearly expressed to his mother that he didn't want. Bunny was looking out for a child, and I don't blame her for having smoked for Charlotte after they split up. Why on God's green earth should Charlotte's reward for her very short marriage with Trey, where she cheated on him and left him, be their family home that's worth so many millions of dollars that Charlotte had the nerve to move her divorce lawyer that she married into that home where they then raised their children? If I was Bunny, Trey could have told me to give Charlotte whatever she wanted, all he want. Charlotte wasn't getting that house. Must be crazy. You know how insane it is that she was supposed to be okay with the idea that because her son married some gal he knew for a month and it immediately hit the shitter, now she out a beloved family home? No way. No. But the fact that Trey intervened to make sure Charlotte got what she wanted is proof of a fact Trey haters fail to acknowledge. Trey loved his mama and allowed her influence over his life, but every time his mother opposed Charlotte, he took Charlotte's side. He took Charlotte's side when she and his mommy clashed over the decor, just like he took her side when they clashed over the divorce. Trey and his mommy did have an overly familiar relationship that could have perhaps stood for a few more boundaries, but Trey was never afraid to draw those boundaries for Charlotte's benefit, even when it turned out his mother was in his corner more than Charlotte ever cared to be. Trey was not the mama's boy that fans like to think he was. Trey gave Charlotte whatever she wanted, and whenever he couldn't, she would leave. He couldn't meet her sexual needs on her timeline, she left. He wasn't ready to have kids or willing to adopt, she left. And I'm not saying Charlotte was wrong to leave him in the end. I'm saying she was wrong to marry him in the first place because she never cared about him, and she was wrong for how she treated him throughout the marriage, which is why Trey was the victim.